Episode 5 was leaps and bounds beyond any other episode of the Ahsoka series. It exceeded every single expectations we had as Star Wars fans, and it will easily go down as Dave Filoni's greatest work so far. It featured so many sequences and flashbacks in not only Ahsoka's current state of affairs, meeting Anakin again, but also going back to her dark and troubling days in the Clone Wars as a child. Yesterday's video proved that. I made the video yesterday explaining how terrible it was that the Jedi Order would resort to actually using child soldiers. I mean, Ahsoka, when she entered the Clone Wars, she was only 14 years old. So naturally, Ahsoka has had a traumatic upbringing to the point where she actually flashes yellow Sith eyes during Episode 5 while fighting Dark Anakin. And I heard fans saying, no, that's only the lightsaber. No, it's not. You don't go from blue eyes to yellow eyes with the red blade. While the Sith eyes are apparent, you actually see her scowl too, meaning that she has completely succumbed to her dark side, to anger. It is that moment where she decides to either kill Anakin or not. You see, throughout this entire ordeal, Ahsoka is actually forced to fight her former master Anakin, and throughout all this, you understand that Anakin is trying to teach her a lesson. The lesson wasn't only to fight and not give up, but the true lesson behind all of this was, will she finally succumb to her anger? And as we see paralleling Luke Skywalker, she in the end chose to be a Jedi. She chose to pull back and literally throw away the lightsaber, similar to how Luke did in the Emperor's throne room.
You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Now, instead of Ahsoka saying, I am a Jedi like my father before me, she instead, without saying a word, of course, said that I am a Jedi like my master before me. As always, it was beautiful poetry. It rhymed, expecting nothing less from Dave Filoni, the apprentice to the master George Lucas. However, we're here today to discuss how it actually happened. What brought Ahsoka to that point that she couldn't actually control her anger for that brief second, for that brief moment. You're gonna find this interesting, but it is not actually the first time that Ahsoka has had yellow Sith eyes. You see, during the great adventure of the Mortis arc in the Clone Wars Season 3, Ahsoka was actually bitten and poisoned by the dark side itself. The first time Ahsoka actually showed flashes of her dark side was during these episodes, where the dark side attacks Ahsoka from the outside, forcing her to embrace the dark side in total, and the Son, who is a representation of the dark side itself, becomes her master. Ironically, she actually duels Anakin in that episode as well, later duels both Obi-Wan and Anakin, and betrays Anakin by giving the dagger to the Son in the end. To find our answer, we need to look at these two instances. Both instances where Ahsoka showed yellow Sith eyes and she kind of embraced the dark side came from Dave Filoni, of course, because Dave Filoni was in charge of the Clone Wars back in the day, and in this episode, I suspect he did most of the idea writing. And again, it echoes. It came full circle in Episode 5 yesterday. Why Ahsoka will always be linked to Anakin is pretty complex but simple at the same time. Ahsoka's journey as a Jedi Padawan is similar to that of Anakin's, because both of them essentially were forced to become what they hated. Both of these Jedi saw the good in the Jedi Order and wished to serve the light, to be peacekeepers. However, right as Ahsoka was ready to become a Padawan and to become a Jedi Knight, the Clone Wars started, and then she was forced to become a soldier in order to survive, in order for her Order and the Republic to survive too. While Anakin was a bit older, he too was caught up in this convoluted power struggle between the Federation and the Republic, essentially the Jedi and secretly Chancellor Palpatine and Dooku. Both these Jedi were essentially betrayed by the Jedi Council. We have two instances. One, Ahsoka was blamed for treachery for bombing the Jedi Council, and they pursued her ferociously. essentially, without even giving her proper time to defend herself. When she was cleared of all charges, she didn't accept the apology of the Jedi Council, instead choosing to leave it entirely. This took her into a totally different trajectory. And kind of the same thing happened with Anakin too. They betrayed Anakin as well. The moment they asked him to spy on the Chancellor, this, I think, was the last straw for Anakin. He had tolerated a lot to that point. Wars, treachery, he probably saw a lot of killings that took place and blamed himself, blamed the Jedi. But throughout all this, now they were turning inward. Now they used Jedi as spy machines for their purposes. The selfishness of the Jedi Order had become apparent. The Jedi Council were all about themselves now. And even though they were acting on the interest of the Order, Anakin saw this as being totally corrupt. Both these Jedi essentially felt that they were tools for greater powers and were given almost no time to consider their reality. This is why Anakin tells young Ahsoka during the Clone Wars flashback that in order to survive, he must teach her to lead and to fight, because this is what Anakin was. He was only pushing forward. This is why he essentially became Vader, because he couldn't stop the war in his head. In a way, Anakin's war never ended. It started with the Clone Wars and it traumatized him so badly that when the Clone Wars ended in Revenge of the Sith, he couldn't stop. He needed to go forward, and this is why he accepted Palpatine and became Vader. It's because he needed enemies to fight. He just couldn't accept his life to be as a peacekeeper. But this is not Ahsoka, fortunately, and this is what we see in the episode. This is what Dave Filoni tries to tell us, that while Anakin is only pushing forward, starting with his blue saber, trying to train Ahsoka, then when he sees that Ahsoka won't relent, he goes full throttle, becomes a dark Jedi. We see even flashes of Darth Vader in his armor, going at Ahsoka for not accepting Anakin's point of view. This is how Ahsoka in the end redeems Anakin, similar to Luke. Because Ahsoka in the end accepted that what she is not her master. Yes, she has a legacy of being the apprentice of Anakin. She has some Anakin in her, but she is a totally different person. She is a totally different warrior. This is why she abandoned the Jedi Order, and this is why she didn't kill Dark Anakin and throw away her lightsaber. When push comes to shove, Ahsoka would rather walk away than do something that would destroy her spirit her entire life. She just simply couldn't live with that. And this is why in the end, Anakin's eyes turn blue, he is redeemed, he smiles and says to Ahsoka, "There may be hope for you yet." I truly believe that if Ahsoka would have killed Dark Anakin in the World Between Worlds, she would have died in the waters of Cetos. Within her, Ahsoka needed to accept this once and for all. Anakin is a part of her life and will always be, with the light and the darkness. And both the light of Ahsoka and the darkness of Ahsoka with the Sith eyes showed up right where they needed to. Essentially, if she cuts out Anakin from her life, she'd be cutting herself down as a person. Only when she accepted this that she woke up from her coma and was saved by Hera and the others. Now the circle is complete. Essentially, Luke and Ahsoka have pretty much realized the same thing, and this is why the new crop of Jedi, this new generation, is pretty great, and hopefully we'll get many more stories out of these characters for decades to come. Tell me all of your thoughts down below.